Hare Krishna, my dear devotees. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in Hythe, Kent, Southeast England, just next to the English Channel. We're going to get right into it today because I'm a little bit late, got a couple of unexpected calls, and we don't want to waste any time. Anyway. Srimad Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram by Srila Sanatana Goswami, glorifying the Bhagavad-gita, the Bhagavatam, but also the Bhagavad-gita, because it's the same category. Literary incarnations of Krishna, both of them. It goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, Kalidwanduditaditya, Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshakshadayate, Sarvada Savasevyaya, Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin, Madguro Man Mahadana, Man Nisdadagamag Bhagya, Mad Anandanamostude. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadutadayin, adini chutatakada, hanamuncha gadachin mam, premna rit kantayokspura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. We hope everybody's safe and sound and well and happy and ready to hear from Sri Krishna. We're in the chapter 2, and Krishna just has finished analyzing the difference between spirit and matter, the soul and the body, and also he appealed a little bit to Arjuna's Kshatriya nature, Kshatriya pride. That's the nature of Kshatriyas. They're proudful, noble pride. And now he's going to teach him how to free himself from the reactions of works by working without fruitive results. Chapter 2, Bhagavad-gita As It Is, beginning with text 40. Neha Bhikramanashosti Pratyavayo Navidyate Solpamapyasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bhayat. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Purport. Activity in Krishna consciousness, or acting for the benefit of Krishna, without expectation of sense gratification, is the highest transcendental quality of work. Even a small beginning of such activity finds no impediment, nor can that small beginning be lost at any stage. Any work begun on the material plane has to be completed, otherwise the whole attempt becomes a failure. But any work begun in Krishna consciousness has a permanent effect, even though not finished. The performer of such work is therefore not at a loss, even if his work in Krishna consciousness is incomplete. 1% done in Krishna consciousness bears permanent results, so that the next beginning is from the point of 2%. Whereas in material activity, without 100% success, there is no profit. Ajamil performed his duty in some percentage of Krishna consciousness, but the result he enjoyed at the end was 100%, by the grace of the Lord. There is a nice verse in this connection in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17. Tyaktva swadharmam charanam bhujam harer bhajan napakvo tapatet tato yadi yatra kvava bhadrama buddha mushyakim kovarta apto bhajatam swadharmataha. If one gives up his occupational duties and works in Krishna consciousness and then falls down on account of not completing his work, what loss is there on his part? And what can one gain if one performs his material activities perfectly? Or, as the Christians say, what profiteth a man if he gain the whole world, yet suffer the loss of his eternal soul? Material activities and their results end with the body, but work in Krishna consciousness carries a person again to Krishna consciousness, even after the loss of the body. At least one is sure to have a chance in the next life of being born again as a human being, either in the family of a great cultured Brahmana or in a rich aristocratic family that will give one a chance, further chance, for elevation. That is the unique quality of work done in Krishna consciousness. Text 41. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana bahusha kayanantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. Purport. A strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called Vyabhasayatmika, intelligence. The Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 22:66 states, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe Surida Nishchoy, Krishna Bhakti Koila Sarvakarma Kriti Hoy. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world with obligations to family traditions, humanity, or nationality. Fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds. When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are on the absolute plane, for they are no longer subject to dualities like good and bad. The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by progressive Krishna consciousness. The resolute purpose of a person in Krishna consciousness is based on knowledge. Vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabhaha. A person in Krishna consciousness is the rare good soul who knows perfectly that Vasudeva, or Krishna, is the root of all manifested causes. As by watering the root of a tree, one automatically distributes water to the leaves and branches, so by acting in Krishna consciousness, one can render the highest service to everyone, namely self, family, society, country, humanity, etc. If Krishna is satisfied by one's actions, then everyone will be satisfied. Service in Krishna consciousness is, however, best practiced under the able guidance of a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Krishna, who knows the nature of the student and who can guide him to act in Krishna consciousness. As such, to be well versed in Krishna consciousness, one has to act firmly and obey the representative of Krishna, and one should accept the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master as one's mission in life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur instructs us in his famous prayers for the spiritual master as follows: Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado Yasya prasada nagati katopi Jayan stuvang tasya Yashas trisanyam Vande Guru Sri Charanadavindam. By satisfaction of the spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes satisfied. And by not satisfying the spiritual master, there is no chance of being promoted to the plane of Krishna consciousness. I should therefore meditate and pray for his mercy 3 times a day, and offer my respectful obeisances unto him, my spiritual master. The whole process, however, depends on perfect knowledge of the soul beyond the conception of the body. Not theoretically, but practically, when there is no longer a chance for sense gratification manifested in fruitive activities. One who is not firmly fixed in mind is diverted by various types of fruitive acts. Texts 42 and 43. Yam imang pushpitang bacham pravadantya vipashritaha veda vadadatak partha nanyad astiti vadinaha kamatmana swargapada janma karma pralapradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaishvarya gatim prati. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. Purport. People in general are not very intelligent, and due to their ignorance, they are most attached to the fruitive activities recommended in the Karma-kanda portions of the Vedas. They do not want anything more than sense gratificatory proposals for enjoying life in heaven, where wine and women are available and material opulence is very common. In the Vedas, many sacrifices are recommended for elevation to the heavenly planets, especially the Jyotishtoma sacrifices. In fact, it is stated that anyone desiring elevation to heavenly planets must perform these sacrifices, and men with a poor fund of knowledge think that this is the whole purpose of Vedic wisdom. It is very difficult for such inexperienced persons to be situated in the determined action of Krishna consciousness. As fools are attached to the flowers of poisonous trees without knowing the results of such attractions, unenlightened men are similarly attracted by such heavenly opulence and the sense enjoyment thereof. In the Karma-kanda section of the Vedas, it is said, Apama somam amrita abhuma, and akshavyam hi vai chatramasya yajina sukritam bhavati. In other words, those who perform the 4-month penances become eligible to drink the soma rasa beverages to become immortal and happy forever. Even on this earth, some are very eager to have soma rasa, to become strong and fit to enjoy sense gratification. Such persons have no faith in liberation from material bondage, and they are very much attached to the pompous ceremonies of Vedic sacrifices. They are generally sensual, and they do not want anything other than the heavenly pleasures of life. It is understood that there are gardens called Nandana Kanana, in which there is a good opportunity for association with angelic, beautiful women, and having a profuse supply of somarasa wine. Such bodily happiness is certainly sensual. Therefore, there are those who are purely attached to such material, temporary happiness, as lords of the material world. Text 44. Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam taya padita chetasam vyabhasayatmika buddhi samadho excuse me, samadho navidiyate. Hare Krishna. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Purport. Samadhi means fixed mind. The Vedic dictionary, the Nirukti, says, Samyak adiyate smin atmatattva yatatmyam. When the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in samadhi. Samadhi is never possible for persons interested in material sense enjoyments and bewildered by such temporary things. They are more or less condemned by the process of material energy. Text 45. Trigunya Vishaya Vedam Nistraigunyo Bhavarjana Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto Niryoga Chema Atmavan. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the 3 modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these 3 modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. Purport. All material activities involve actions and reactions in the three modes of material nature. They are meant for fruitive results, which cause bondage in the material world. The Vedas deal mostly with fruitive activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. Arjuna, as a student and friend of Lord Krishna, is advised to raise himself to the transcendental position of Vedanta philosophy, where, in the beginning, there is Brahma Jigyasa, or questions on the supreme transcendence. All the living entities who are in the material world are struggling very hard for existence. For them, the Lord, after creation of the material world, gave the Vedic wisdom, advising how to live and get rid of the material entanglement. When the activities for sense gratification, namely the Karma-kanda chapter, are finished, then the chance for spiritual realization is offered in the form of the Upanishads, which are part of different Vedas, as the Bhagavad-gita is a part of the fifth Veda, namely the Mahabharata. The Upanishads mark the beginning of transcendental life. As long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material modes. One has to learn tolerance in the face of dualities such as happiness and distress, or cold and warmth, and by tolerating such dualities, become free from anxieties regarding gain and loss. This transcendental position is achieved in full Krishna consciousness when one is fully dependent on the goodwill of Krishna. Text 46. Yavan artha udapane sarvatak samplatodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanataha. All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. Purport. The rituals and sacrifices mentioned in the Karma-kanda division of the Vedic literature are meant to encourage gradual development of self-realization. And the purpose of self-realization is clearly stated in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita, 15:15. The purpose of studying the Vedas is to know Lord Krishna, the primeval cause of everything. So, self-realization means understanding Krishna and one's eternal relationship with him. The relationship of the living entities with Krishna is also mentioned in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita, 15:7. The living entities are parts and parcels of Krishna. Therefore, revival of Krishna consciousness by the individual living entity is the highest perfectional stage of Vedic knowledge. This is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam 3:33-7 as follows. Aho bhatta shapachoto gariyan yaj jivagre vartate namatubhyam tapustapas te juhuvu shasnodarya brahmanuchur namagrinantayete. O my Lord, a person who is chanting your holy name, although born of a low family like that of a Chandala, dog-eater, is situated on the highest platform of self-realization. Such a person must have performed all kinds of penances and sacrifices according to Vedic rituals and studied the Vedic literatures many times after taking his bath in all the holy places of pilgrimage. Such a person is considered to be the best of the Aryan family. So one must be intelligent enough to understand the purpose of the Vedas without being attached to the rituals only, and must not desire to be elevated to the heavenly kingdoms for a better quality of sense gratification. It is not possible for the common man in this age to follow all the rules and regulations of the Vedic rituals, nor is it possible to study all of the Vedanta and the Upanishads thoroughly. It requires much time, energy, knowledge, and resources to execute the purposes of the Vedas. This is hardly possible in this age. The best purpose of Vedic culture is served, however, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, as recommended by Lord Chaitanya, the deliverer of all fallen souls. When Lord Chaitanya was asked by a great Vedic scholar, Prakashananda Saraswati, why he, the Lord, was chanting the holy name of the Lord like a sentimentalist instead of studying Vedanta philosophy, the Lord replied that his spiritual master had found him to be a great fool and thus asked him to chant the holy name of Lord Krishna. He did so and became ecstatic like a madman. In this age of Kali, most of the population is foolish and not adequately educated to understand Vedanta philosophy. The best purpose of Vedanta philosophy is served by inoffensively chanting the holy name of the Lord. Vedanta is the last word in Vedic wisdom, and the author and knower of the Vedanta philosophy is Lord Krishna. And the highest Vedantist is the great soul who takes pleasure in chanting the holy name of the Lord. That is the ultimate purpose of all Vedic mysticism. Text 47. Karma jivadikaraste ma paleshu kadachana ma karma palahetur bur ma te sango stvakarmani. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. Purport. There are three considerations here: prescribed duties, capricious work, and inaction. Prescribed duties are activities enjoined in terms of one's acquired modes of material nature. Capricious work means actions without the sanction of authority. And inaction means not performing one's prescribed duties. The Lord advised that Arjuna not be inactive, but that he perform his prescribed duty without being attached to the result. One who is attached to the result of his work is also the cause of the action. Thus, he is the enjoyer or sufferer of the result of such actions. As far as prescribed duties are concerned, they can be fitted into three subdivisions, namely routine work, emergency work, and desired activities. Routine work performed as an obligation in terms of the scriptural injunctions without desire for results is action in the mode of goodness. Work with results becomes the cause of bondage. Therefore, such work is not auspicious. Everyone has the proprietary right in regard to prescribed duties, but should act without attachment to the result. Such disinterested, obligatory duties doubtlessly lead one to the path of liberation. Arjuna was therefore advised by the Lord to fight as a matter of duty, without attachment to the result. His non-participation in the battle is another side of attachment. Such attachment never leads one to the path of salvation. Any attachment, positive or negative, is cause for bondage. Inaction is sinful. Therefore, fighting as a matter of duty was the only auspicious path of salvation for Arjuna. Text 48. Yogastak kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyok samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchate. Perform your duty equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. Purport. Krishna tells Arjuna that he should act in yoga. And what is that yoga? Yoga means to concentrate the mind on the Supreme by controlling the ever-disturbing senses. And who is the Supreme? The Supreme is the Lord. And because he himself is telling Arjuna to fight, Arjuna has nothing to do with the results of the fighting. Gain or victory are Krishna's concern. Arjuna is simply advised to act according to the dictation of Krishna. The following of Krishna's dictation is real yoga, and this is practiced in the process called Krishna consciousness. By Krishna consciousness only can one give up the sense of proprietorship. One has to become the servant of Krishna, or the servant of Krishna. That is the right way to discharge duty in Krishna consciousness, which alone can help one to act in yoga. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and as such, he is participating in the Varnashram Dharma institution. It is said in the Vishnu Purana that in the Varnashram Dharma, the whole aim is to satisfy Vishnu. No one should satisfy himself, as is the rule in the material world, but one should satisfy Krishna. So unless one satisfies Krishna, one cannot correctly observe the principles of Varnashram Dharma. That's a very important statement. May I have the permission to repeat it? Okay, thank you very much. No one should satisfy himself. It is said in the Vishnu Purana that in the Varnashram Dharma, the whole aim is to satisfy Vishnu. No one should satisfy himself, as is the rule in the material world, but one should satisfy Krishna. So, unless one satisfies Krishna, one cannot correctly observe the principles of Varnashram Dharma. Indirectly, Arjuna was advised to act as Krishna told him. Text 49. Durina yavadam karma buddhi yogad dhananjaya buddhao sharanamanvichja kripana palahetavaha. O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. Purport. One who has actually come to understand one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Lord gives up all engagements save working in Krishna consciousness. As already explained, Buddhi Yoga means transcendental loving service to the Lord. Such devotional service is the right course of action for the living entity. Only misers desire to enjoy the fruit of their work, of their own work, just to be further entangled in material bondage. Except for working Krishna consciousness, all activities are abominable, because they continually bind the worker to the cycle of birth and death. One should therefore never desire to be the cause of work. Everything should be done in Krishna consciousness, for the satisfaction of Krishna. Misers do not know how to utilize the assets of riches which they acquire by good fortune or by hard labor. One should spend all energies working in Krishna consciousness, and that will make one's life successful. Like misers, unfortunate persons do not employ their human energy in the service of the Lord. Text 50. Buddhi yukto jahati ha ube sukrita duskrite tasmad yogaya yujaswa yoga karmasu kaushalam. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions, even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all work. Purport. Since time immemorial, each living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad work. As such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. One's ignorance can be removed by the instruction of the Bhagavad-gita, which teaches one to surrender unto Lord Sri Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the chained victimization of action and reaction, birth after birth. Arjuna is therefore advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resultant action. Text 51. Karmajang buddhi yukta hi palam chaktva manishinaha janma bandha manir mukta padam gacchantanamayam. By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead. Purport. The liberated living entities belong to that place where there are no material miseries. The Bhagavatam 10.14.58 says, Sama shritaye parapalava plavam mahatpadam punya yacho mararehe bhavam buddhir vatsapadam padam 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 yad vipadam natesham. One who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Mukunda, or the giver of mukti. The ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoofprint. Padam padam, padam padam, or the place where there are no material miseries, or Vaikuntha, is his goal, not the place where there is danger in every step of life. Due to ignorance, one does not know that this material world is a miserable place where there are dangers at every step. Out of ignorance only, less intelligent persons try to adjust to the situation by fruitive activities, thinking that the resultant actions will make them happy. They do not know that no kind of material body anywhere within the universe can give life without miseries. The miseries of life, namely birth, death, old age, and diseases, are present everywhere within the material world. But one who understands his real constitutional position as the eternal servitor of the Lord, and thus knows the position of the personality of Godhead, engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Consequently, he becomes qualified to enter into the Vaikuntha planets, where there is neither material, miserable life, nor the influence of time and death. To know one's constitutional position means to know also the sublime position of the Lord. One who wrongly thinks that the living entity's position and the Lord's position are on the same level is to be understood to be in darkness, and therefore unable to engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. He becomes the Lord himself, and thus paves the way for his repetition of birth and death. But one who, understanding that his position is to serve, transfers himself to the service of the Lord, at once becomes eligible for Vaikuntha Loka. Service for the cause of the Lord is called Karma Yoga, or Buddhi Yoga, or in plain words, devotional service to the Lord. Text 52. Yada te moha kalilam buddhir vyatishadishyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha. When your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. Purport. There are many good examples in the lives of the great devotees of the Lord, of those who became indifferent to the rituals of the Vedas simply by devotional service to the Lord. When a person factually understands Krishna and his relationship with Krishna, he naturally becomes completely indifferent to the rituals of fruitive activities, even though an experienced Brahmana. Sri Madhavendra Puri, a great devotee and Acharya in the line of the devotees, says, Sandhya Vandana Bhadramastu Babato Bosnana Tubhyam Namo Bodevak Pitadas Chatarpanavidau Naham Chama Chamyatam Yatra Kwapi Nishidya Yadavakulat Tomashtashat Kama Dvishaha Yatra Kwapi Nishadya Yadavakulo Tang Shasya Kangsha Dvisha Smadam Smadamagam Harami Tadalam Manye Ki Manye Name. O my prayers 3 times a day, all glory to you. O bathing, I offer my obeisances unto you. O demigods, O forefathers, please excuse me for my inability to offer you my respects. Now, wherever I sit, I can remember the great descendant of the Yadu dynasty, Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa, and thereby I can free myself from all sinful bondage. I think this is sufficient for me. The Vedic rites and rituals are imperative for neophytes. Comprehending all kinds of prayer 3 times a day, taking a bath early in the morning, offering respect to the forefathers, etc. But when one is fully in Krishna consciousness and is engaged in his transcendental loving service, one becomes indifferent to all these regulative principles because he has already attained perfection. If one can reach the platform of understanding by service to the Supreme Lord Krishna, if one can reach the platform of understanding by service to the Supreme Lord Krishna, he has no longer to execute different types of penances and sacrifices as recommended in revealed scriptures. And similarly, If one has not understood that the purpose of the Vedas is to reach Krishna and simply engages in the rituals, etc., then he is uselessly wasting time in such engagements. Persons in Krishna consciousness transcend the limit of Shabda Brahma, or the range of the Vedas and Upanishads. And we'll stop our reading tonight. That's almost 10 after 8. I went a little later because we started later. Then we'll start with text 53 tomorrow. Jai Shri Krishna, Shri Bhagavad-gita As It Is, Ki Jai. So refreshing. The basics, the very basics of Krishna consciousness. Give us solid information of how to make a decision, what to do in life. Hare Krishna.
First is from Gopakanya Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna Gopakanya Devi Dasi.
She says, Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj and all friends, the lovers of daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. All glories to your spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, and your loving devotional service to him.
All glories to his divine grace. Thank you.
And from Rati Manjari.
Haribo Rati.
She says, Jai Guru Maharaj, on my way with low batteries, but I will listen later. Good to see you again, even in a flash, my shining torch in a dark world.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Keep the kirtan going, Rati Manjari Devi Dasi. Keep the kirtan going. Keep that transcendental sound flowing. Hare Krishna.
And from Sudevi Dasi.
Hare Krishna Sudevi Dasi.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my obeisances. Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Glories to Prabhupada.
Thank you for this addicting daily medicine. Much appreciation.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining. Thank you very much.
From Bhakta Rupa.
Haribo Bhakta Rupa.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for reading, Maharaj. Spent some time studying chapter 17 last week and have been pondering what is generally meant when someone is called a person of faith. Prabhupada gave a nice definition in the purport to 241. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime.
Exactly, one of my favorite sentences of all the books. Really catches one's attention and gives us a peep in what it would be like to be solidly situated in full faith.
Really liked the simplicity of the definition.
But it's not simplistic, it's very deep. Srila Prabhupada is so expert at speaking the very basics in a way that is simple and clear and easy to digest, even though these are very profound statements, but he says them in such simple language and simple, clear, with full realization. It's very easy to become attached to the right thing, to become attached to the truth, because it's so satisfying to the intelligence and to the mind and to the heart. Yes. Unflinching faith in something sublime.
Next is from Subbarao Rajagopalan.
Subbarao Rajagopal, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Haribol.
Thank you very much for your reading Srila Prabhupada's books and giving us the opportunity to be part of the Shravanam process. Shubha from Minneapolis.
Haribol, Shubha from Minneapolis. Haribol.
And from Bhaktamatsu.
Haribol Bhaktamatsu.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, all glories to Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for reading. I was really appreciating Srila Prabhupada bringing out Chakravarti Thakur's statement, Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado. By satisfaction of the spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes satisfied. As an aspiring disciple, what is the proper way to approach the spiritual master for shelter? Practically speaking, how does a disciple bring satisfaction to the spiritual master?
He brings satisfaction to the spiritual master by following the instructions he's given and by accepting the line of authority coming through Srila Prabhupada. All these spiritual masters that are initiating in our ISKCON movement, they're taking their teachings and their inspiration from Srila Prabhupada. He is the Founder-Ācārya. He's not just Guru, he is Guru and Jagat Guru, but he's not just those things. He's also the Founder-Ācārya of our movement. So anybody that you're aspiring for will see carefully whether the person is actually accepting and following Srila Prabhupada's line of authority, and his line, his mood, and his way of doing things. Hare Krishna.
This is from Dayal Nitai.
Hare Krishna Dayal Nitai. I was just thinking about you today. Hare Bol.
Dear Sri the Guru Maharaj, please accept my obeisance. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for taking us with you on the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. With your approval, I would still have a question related to yesterday's reading.
Okay.
Would you want to explain something about the comparison or differences between the promises for jihadists going to heaven as a result of their warfare and an afterlife as a result of their warfare and an afterlife on the heavenly planets awarded to Vedic warriors? I would like to understand this better so that I can explain it better. Thank you, your servant.
Hare Krishna. One is true and one is not. Only actual religious warfare is accepted, and it must be for the purpose of protecting the human beings, the human society, from evil. So if you're a sectarian religionist, Islam or whatever, or other, even there have been Christian purges of different personalities for not accepting the philosophy and the religious principles of Christianity, and there have been wars, conducted on that level. But in the Vedic culture, the person, if there's war, there's rules. It's a science. So these persons who are, at war with anybody else who's not a Christian or not a Muslim or not a this or not a that, they don't understand God. They don't understand the philosophy, even in their own scriptures, because Krishna is the father of everyone. Aham bija pradapita. He's the father of all living beings. So if the warfare is actually directed by him, then it's a different result. If one is trying to harm others for a sectarian purpose. Of course, it's true also that the Kshatriya kings, they have a tendency to compete with one another for territory. And sometimes there are those kinds of wars, and they're not necessarily sanctioned, always sanctioned in the Vedas. There may be two kinds of irreligious kings who are fighting with one another. And that's what was happening on the earth when Krishna came and organized the Battle of Kurukshetra. There needed to be a actual pious, righteous king. At that time in the earth was organized in a way that the whole earth was under one flag, under one rule. There were different kingdoms, but anyway, so Yudhishthira was the rightful heir to that throne, not just, genetically, but also practically. He was the destined person, and therefore it was sanctioned by Krishna. So these jihadists, they're warring and promise to get to a heavenly planet and have 71 virgins at their door. It's just not true. So that's the difference.
From Anandamurti Devi Dasi.
Haribol Anandamurti.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. It is very fortunate for me to read such confidential information with you. Always acting with full Krishna consciousness is the essence of life and is called Buddhi Yoga.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
And from Gauranga Gopal.
Haribol Gauranga Gopal.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
I really appreciated this beautiful series of verses from Bhagavad-gita.
Yes.
Today I heard a lecture from Tamal Krishna Maharaj defining spiritual happiness by the austerities that we perform for the purpose of pleasing Krishna. It seems that the main austerity is to stop listening to our capricious mind and finally hear from the right source. In that sense, I also appreciated this sentence from Srila Prabhupada in verse 50. Quote, one's ignorance can be removed by the instruction of the Bhagavad-gita, which teaches one to surrender unto Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the chain victimization of action and reaction, birth after birth.
Yes, it's the essence. That's what I was saying in the beginning. These gems of Srila Prabhupada, where he'll take one sentence and just encapsulate, the teachings of a series of verses in the Gita, and just make it so clear, is superhuman. No one else can do that. And hit it on the mark every single time. I couldn't agree with you more. Hare Krishna. That's why I've been doing what I've been doing for the last 49 years. Hare Krishna. And reading the Bhagavad-gita year after year after year. I can't tell you the number of times I've read the Bhagavad-gita. And every time I read it, I get more enlightenment, I get more happiness, I get more thrill. It is so exciting to read and hear the truth. Hare Krishna.
And last is from Dal Nitai. He says, thank you, Srila Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Dal Nitai. Hare Krishna. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for these lovely experience, the lovely experience of hearing and chanting with like-minded devotees. It is the essence of life. It gives, yes, light-hearted enthusiasm and knowledge and depth to whatever we do and whatever we think and whatever we, everything. Hare Krishna. Bhagavad-gita As It Is. Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow night. Same time, same place, same topic. And I think we're all getting attached to it and to one another, and therefore it is the source of our life. See you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.